Hey, I'm Jiso, and I'm going to show you the best build in Gotham Knights. I'm talking insane damage, the kind of damage you only see in anime. And if you want to see more videos like those, drop a like and subscribe. And with that said, let's dive into the build. So, I've been doing a lot of experiments, just checking the numbers just to see what works best. And I settled for the fast progression suit, which basically makes it so that every time I have less than half my health, my base damage is going to be increased. But that's just not everything it does, because my chances of landing a critical will also increase, which is great because this build relies essentially on your critical damage. So everything you can do to increase your chances of landing that critical is welcome. That's why we're using this suit. And don't even be mistaken by the power level. You may be like, hey, I have 12k, I have 11k. Hey, it's not about the numbers. I mean, kinda, but not really. So, when it comes to your melee weapon, that's where I actually had the most trouble because I was going back and forth between 3 different staffs. All of them were elementless. I'm talking no elements whatsoever, and that's what you want to do usually when choosing a build. You want to have the melee weapon which has no elements because they deal the most damage and they can deal critical damage as well. And I settled for the linked bow staff, mostly because it comes with 40% critical chance, and this build is going to be, also it's optimal because you are able to consistently deal the critical damage. That's why I settled for that stuff in particular. When it comes to the gear properties, you don't get much, it's not crazy. Mostly the fact that you can knock, every time you knock out an enemy using momentum ability is going to guarantee that the next hit, your next attack is going to deal double the damage. So if for example that next attack is going to be a critical at, let's say, 8k damage, 8,000 damage is going to be 16,000 damage. That's a lot. That's quite crazy, and the reason why I'm using that stuff. And you will see that I don't have 4 mod slots gear, mostly because I wasn't lucky enough, but also whenever I got some 4 mod slots gear, I noticed that I was losing something, whether it's the damage or the health. You lose something when you get those gear. Like, you will be able to have crazy power level gear, but that's the thing, power level is not everything if you cannot, capitalize on the damage. That's why I think even though those gear were mostly 3 mod slots gear, they're worth it. You can however use the staggering bow staff and yield also similar results, but personally I just went with the link bow staff. And when it comes to my ranged weapon, I settled for the cryogenic slingshot because I think ice is the best element in the game, and it works even better with Robin because he's able to affect multiple people at once. Whenever you stick those pellets to surfaces, whenever they explode, they're going to affect every single enemy in the vicinity. That's why we want to use something with the ability to hit multiple people, because then Robin is going to deal even more damage, because whenever an enemy is affected by an element, he can deal even more damage, and the chances of him landing a critical are also increased. I did try to replicate that build using other characters, but I wasn't that successful because they don't have the same affinity with elements Robin has, and that's mostly why I think he is the best one when it comes to this build in particular, which is somehow also the best build for now in the game. So, with the build out of the way, now we can talk about how to make the most out of it in combat. And first thing first, you want to lose half your health because you want to trigger that property, allowing us to increase our base damage and also the chances and damage of our critical. Very important, the criticals are everything for this build to work. Now, whenever an enemy is affected by a certain element, it doesn't matter what element, but whenever that enemy is affected, Robin can deal even more damage to them, and the highest I went was 22,000. But hey, That enemy was just affected by that state. I wasn't using a momentum ability. It means that in a single swing of his staff, he was able to deal 20,000 damage, which is insane. Again, I wasn't using any ability. I just used my slingshot to freeze the enemy and then just swing, and that was 20,000 damage. That's why I think this build is crazy. And don't forget, Robin is also able to instantly trigger that elemental status. He doesn't have to build it up sometimes. It can just happen instantly. I'm saying you just throw one pellet and boom, they are affected, and every single enemy in the vicinity are also become instantly weaker to being elementally, I'll say, affected, kinda. So that's what makes him very powerful. The fact that he has mastery other elements, and if you use him right, I'm saying use your nanobots. Your nanobots come with built-in fire, so whenever they can affect 5 people at once, and whenever they are affected, guess what, you can deal critical, like way more critical damage, and your chances of landing a critical damage are also increased. And guess what, if one enemy is knocked out while you are performing an ability which lasts long, which can last long, like your rain or your nanobots, they are knocked out using your momentum abilities, which means that your next hit is going to be doubled. That's how things escalate quickly. And don't forget, lastly, don't forget that Robin also has the ability to simulate that holographic sight. Like his ultimate ability is that thing he can do with his, I'll say, his face. And in that state, his critical damage as well as his chances of landing a critical are also increased. I'm saying he is the boss when it comes to critical damage, and he takes it to the next level. But chances are you won't even need, because I mean, first it consumes 2 bars. So would you rather do that or trigger the rain? Chances are you're going to go with the rain because you get more value out of it. But chances are you won't have to do it all together. You won't have to transform, but if you choose to do so, it's even more damage, which is again insane. And the craziest thing is, this build is not restricted to your melee weapon, because even if you use your pellets, I'll say if you use precision aim to shoot your pellets, they're also going to deal critical damage because those enemies are affected by that elemental status, which is crazy because sometimes you can deal as high as 15k damage just using your pellets. Tell me that's not insane. I think that's pretty sick. And here's a little bonus. Because our base damage is reduced, you'll also be able to perform stealth attacks on enemies you wouldn't normally be able to perform them on, which is again a plus. And anybody who isn't a special enemy is going to probably die in one hit. I'm talking one swing and they die. Like the more demanding enemies are going to take maybe 4 or 5 hits depending on how tanky they are. But if you actually successfully use, like I remember one day, like funny story, I remember one day where I was playing and the screen turned red. It felt like the game acknowledged my power. And guess what? Your nanobots can also set people on fire. And what I usually do is whenever I use an ability, I also make it rain. So it's ice and fire, the perfect shorter to direct combo. And that one combo is lethal. Probably even the most damaging one in the game. Nobody can survive it. Not even a man-bat. And if you play the game, you know those guys are fucking annoying. But guess what? My combo is even more annoying because they cannot survive it. Jesus Christ, this is good. But hey, I'm going to keep trying to make this build even better. In the meantime, feel free to share your build in the comments so that we can all learn from each other. But also, the 4-player co-op mode is going to be released sometime in the future. And when that thing drops, you want to be ready and maybe single-handedly handle any mission by yourself, as Robin kicking ass and setting people on fire and freezing the place. I'm Giselle, and in my opinion, this is the best build. If you disagree, let me know. Share your build and enlighten us. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.